पांसे की नोकों पर नर्तन करते अपने विरोधी को हराने के लिए आगे बढ़ते जा रहे हैं। प्रत्येक दिव्यास्त्र को उचित दिव्यास्त्र से रोका जा सकता है, लेकिन उनका चयन योद्धाओं की बुद्धि पर निर्भर है। कुरुक्षेत्र के इस युद्ध में क्या आप जीवित बच सकते हैं? इसका निर्णय भाग्य और योद्धाओं के कौशल के हवाले है। जानिए, आपको मिलती है वीरगति या बनते हैं सम्राट युधिष्ठिर के राज्य का हिस्सा। खेलिए महाभारत युद्ध पर आधारित यह रोचक खेल, रणभूमि कुरुक्षेत्र।
नमस्कार।
नमस्ते।
स्वागत है आप सभी का कही सुनी के इस सीजन 2 के 11वें एपिसोड में। और सावन का महीना है, तो हमने सोचा कि कुछ स्पेशल एपिसोड किया जाए जिसमें हम लोग महादेव के बारे में बात करें। और क्योंकि बहुत सारे लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि महाभारत एक वैष्णवाइट टेक्स्ट है जो केवल श्री कृष्ण की महिमा की बात करता है, और इसमें मतलब महादेव का ज़्यादा योगदान नहीं है। तो आज हम तीनों लोग, मैं, प्रांशु और दीपक, यहाँ पे इकट्ठा हुए हैं आप लोगों को बताने के लिए कि महादेव का महाभारत में कितना योगदान है। तो द टॉपिक ऑफ द कन्वर्सेशन टुडे इज महादेव इन महाभारत, और इसको हमने 3 पार्ट में डिवाइड किया है। पार्ट 1 इज द सेटअप, तो जो इवेंट्स महाभारत में हुए विच बेसिकली सेट अप द इवेंट्स ऑफ महाभारत. So these are the events before many years, many eons ago that happened, which resulted into the events of Mahabharata. The second part is the origin, the events just before the events of Mahabharata, where Mahadev was involved, and these events basically are are the origin of the conflicts or origin of the situations that caused the entire episodes of Mahabharata. And the third part of this setup is the actual events of the Mahabharata. So basically, all over, if you notice that from before the beginning, and then in the end, Mahadev has a constant presence in the epic Mahabharata. And we have broken it into 2 episodes. तो आज के एपिसोड में हम लोग बात करेंगे सेटअप और ओरिजिन की, और अगला एपिसोड जो अगले रविवार को हम लोग बैठेंगे, तब हम लोग बात करेंगे एक्चुअल इवेंट्स ऑफ महाभारत की, जो महाभारत में हुआ, जिसमें महादेव ने अपना योगदान दिया। तो सेटअप और ओरिजिन में डिफरेंस ये है कि सेटअप आर द इवेंट्स व्हिच हैपेंड many years before the actual events of Mahabharata. When these events would have happened, nobody would have understood the meaning of them in the larger scheme of things. Till the events of Mahabharata would have given some context about those events of the past. And the origins are the events which are directly connected to Mahabharata, and they lead to the actual events of the Mahabharata. So in setup, we will basically talk about events like the 5 Indras, then there is an event of the Shivakanya Penance, and then third one we will cover is Shwetaki's sacrifice. So without taking too much time, I would like Deepak to talk about the first of the event in the setup, and that is the Deepak, go ahead. You choose the one of the 3, and go ahead.
Yeah. So namaste to everybody, and to start off with this session on role of Mahadev, as Gaurav was saying, many people think that Mahabharata is a Vaishnava text, so it only has focus on Krishna. But Mahadeva has a very important role to play. So that we will see in the next 2 weeks. So anyway, today to start off, I would like to start with Draupadi. She is one of the central characters of the Mahabharata. Now, what we know about Draupadi is something unique, is that she had 5 husbands. So at that time, polygamy was very common. Kings would have more than one queen. They had many queens, in fact. And we all know the famous story of Krishna with 16,000 wives and all that. So a woman having more than one husband was something very rare. So we all know what happened. Arjuna won Swayamvara. Draupadi garlanded him. They went home. And then he told Kunti that, see what I have got. And then she said, whatever you have, share it equally. So then there is a problem now. How do we uh, have one wife for five husbands? Then what happens? The next day, Draupadi's father, invites them to the palace. So they go there, and then he asks this question. He says, "How is it possible that one woman can have five husbands? Isn't it a sin?" So then at that time, Vyasa makes his presence. Now this is important because Vyasa comes at the right time in many situations, and when he comes, there is going to be something very important that will going to happen. Something of importance is going to happen. So if you see that for both Vyasa as well as Narada, generally when they come, there is some twist in the story. So now Vyasa starts telling, he says that no, this is not the first occasion. There was a lady, an ascetic called Jatila. She had more than one husband.
So,
And then what happens? He takes Drupada inside the palace, not in front of everyone. And then he tells the story of Draupadi. So what he says is, he says that in the previous life, Draupadi was a daughter of a sage. So she was very beautiful. She had all the virtues, but still she was not getting a husband.
and the
So
sage's name
then
is
she
also
prayed
Shiva.
to Mahadev.
And the sage's name is also Shiva.
Yeah, Shiva. So Shivakanya is the name which you have seen in the poster for this particular episode. So she prays to Shiva, Mahadeva, and she says she wants a husband. So after she prays for a long time, Mahadeva appears. So he says, "What do you want? Ask for the boon, I'll give." Now she's very excited. So she says, "I want an accomplished husband. I 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 want an accomplished husband." Five times. So Shiva says, "Okay, you will have five accomplished husbands." So then she's in a shock. He says, "No, no, how can I have five husbands? I want only one husband." He says, "Once I've given the boon, I cannot take it back. You have to have five husbands." But then she keeps requesting. He says, "I can postpone my boon to your next life. So this life you will have one husband, but next life you are going to have five accomplished husbands." Of course, there is a story that he says, "Well, I want a very strong husband, husband who is skilled in archery, a husband who is wise, and so on." So she's expecting that husband with five different qualities. So instead, she gets five husbands. But Shiva postpones it to the next Janma. And the same lady in the next Janma, she is born as Drupada's daughter, Draupadi. She is born, as we know, from the fire. And so it is destined that she would have five husbands. So when Vyasa tells that Drupada is assured, so then they go ahead with the marriage and Draupadi becomes wife to the five Pandavas. And we know that leads to her insult by Karna and so many other things happen. So this is the origin of Draupadi's five husbands. It was because of a boon from Shiva in her previous life. So this is the story of the role of Mahadeva, who ensured that Draupadi was married to five Pandavas. You're on mute, Gaurav.
You're on mute.
Thank you, Deepak. Sorry. So we now know why Draupadi had five husbands and how Mahadev played a very important role in accomplish this particular situation. Now there is also Mahadev involvement about those five husbands also. So who would be those five husbands? That also was predestined, and that also has a link to Mahadev. So we will talk about. So Pranshu will talk about the story of five Indras and how Mahadev ensured that Draupadi had these five accomplished husbands through another boon of his to some other people. So Pranshu, over to you.
Right. So actually, so Mahabharat, what is Mahabharat about? Mahabharat is a project of Bhumi Bharhana by Vyas. It starts off with Dharti Mata, Mother Prithvi herself, disguised as a cow. She goes to Brahma Parmeshti and says, all these bad people are basically hurting me. They are like a weight on my shoulders. So this is actually Mahabharat is your original story of conservation, of earth conservation and environmental protection from the very beginning. So Brahma Parmeshti obviously guides, asks Vyas. So Vyas is the project master, and he basically everybody helps out. So you basically go and you have to get resources. How do you do the project? When Ravan needed to be defeated, all the devas and everybody got born as Vanars. We will be waiting for Ram to come, and then we will go ahead and do the work. We'll build the bridge, we will do the fight, we will destroy the Vayam Raksham, and we will put the Ram Rajya in place. So that was the same story comes up here. Now, where would you go to actually get the best resources possible? You would think the preserver is Vishnu. Vishnu is going to be part of it. He's there as Krishna. He's there as Krishna Depayan. He's right there in that. And oh yes, Yadamanyu Panchal. I'll change my name. So let's complete this and then we will do that. But there is the role which Mahadev also plays. Mahadev actually cleans up. He cleans up everything. He's your garbage collection. He cleans up everything, reestablishes everything. So he chooses from the previous Manvantars. So that's the story. That there was once all the Indras. There was a huge sacrifice in Naimisharanya forest, and Yam was in charge of killing the pashus for that yagya, and he was totally busy with that. So he wasn't killing. There was nobody was dying on earth. They were all immortal like devas themselves. So all the devas got worried a little, and they went to Prajapati, and Prajapati said, "What is this happening? Yam is totally busy there, and we are not dying, and nobody is dying, and everybody is like us now." So he said, "Don't worry, the yagya will end, after which Yam will resume the duties." So this is the death takes the vacation. Again, this is another very important point from Mahabharat. You should always backfill yourself. So Yam had forgotten to backfill himself. He had forgotten to give his power of attorney to somebody else. When he was born as Vidur, he gave his power of attorney. He gave his power of attorney to Aryam. Aryam was the father of Yudhishthir and so on and so forth. But here he had not done that yet. So this is a story which is very, far beyond the time of Mahabharat himself. It's a part of the origin. And so when the Devas, they go to Naimisharanya, they look at the river Ganga, and there are these golden lotuses floating by. And they go to the origin of Ganga, literally to Gomukh. And at Gomukh, they see this lady. She was taking a bath in the river. She's crying, and the tears are falling, and they're becoming these golden lotuses. And they ask, "Who are you?" And she says, "Oh, you should not have come. You got attracted by the golden lotuses, and you have come, and unfortunately, you also have to suffer the same thing." So he said, "Why?" He said, "Follow me." And they go to a place on top of Himvan, and there is these two husband and wife. They're playing chess. They're playing Dut, dice. And again, here is your dice game, the one which changes the whole story of Mahabharat. Is basically played between Shiva and Parvati. And Indra goes there and says, "Hey, I am the Lord of the universe. Who are you?" And Shiva says, "Hold it. Wait. Let me finish, yaar. I'm playing with my wife, let me finish it." And after he does, and he says that you should be punished for your arrogance. And he looks at Indra. Indra is totally like he's frozen. He can't move at all. And only when Shiva is done with the game, he asks the goddess who was crying, and she comes and touches the Indra. Indra is able to be mobile. And he says, "Go to this. There's this cave, and there's this huge mountain. You have the power to move that mountain." And he moves that mountain, and he sees inside there are 4 more people exactly like him. And he says, "These are the 4 previous Indras. And you join them." And he says, this is the way you will learn humility. And that's one of the main points of the 5 Pandav brothers, actually. Who are these 5 Indras born? And so Shiva, from the very beginning, knowing that, Bhumi will come to ask Parmeshti for help, was preparing the heroes for the future. And he says that Indra will basically, you 5 will be born later on as the 5 brothers on earth. And you will be, and the lady goddess Sridevi, the goddess Shri, who was basically the one who was weeping the golden lotuses, she will be born as your wife Draupadi. And this is also the story which Vyas tells Drupad. And actually, the first Virat Roop actually happens here. Drupad looks outside. Instead of looking at 5 Pandavas, he sees these 5 huge figures, the shining Indras themselves. So here you have there's Virat Roop again, in the Sabha and in Kurukshetra when Krishna reveals. This is the first Virat Roop where Drupad says, okay, you know what? I'm okay. Now I'm convinced. And he goes ahead with the marriage of the Pandavas. But this is the very important point from the very beginning. Shiva is preparing not only the method of how Bhumi Bharana will happen, the Dyut. He is also finding the 5 people across the Manvantars, the best ones. And he finds those 5 Indras. And actually, I put the names out. So the 5 Indras, they are called Vishwabhuk, Bhut Daman, Shivi and Shanti, Nakul and Sahadeva, Shivi and Shanti, or Shanti and Shivi, and Tejasvi, the 5th Indra, is Arjun. In Dakshinatya, the names are Rochan is Bhim, Mandar Dyumna is the guy Arjun, and Satyajit is Indra, and Vibhu and Trishikha are Sahadev and Nakul. Again, I reversed the order. So basically, those are the 5 from the very beginning who are part of it. And this is the first part where we also mentioned about the global warming. They said the Prithvi, because the Yam was actually not killing, the people were not dying. So the Prithvi was literally, overburdened with the population and everything. So the description is very much like what global warming descriptions are now. So this is saying the original environmental protection text is Mahabharat itself. So this is how the 5
Thanos
Indra.
ने भी पढ़ी होगी महाभारत, it seems like.
Sorry?
Thanos Marvel villain.
Exactly. So this is so that's how he ensures these 5 are born. And again, they are very powerful ones. Like so they are the 7. Hum saatve Manvantar mein. We are the 7th Manvantar of the current day of Brahma. And in this first Manvantar, the Indra was Yagneya, the husband of Dakshina. He is the avatar of Vishnu himself. Then came Rochan or Bhut Daman, which is Bhim, and then came Satyajit or Vishwabhuk. Again, the one who basically clears the pain of the earth, Vishwabhuk, like literally cleans the pain of the earth, like apne andar le leta hai. So they are basically were chosen and selected from the beginning. So not only like Mahadev is anticipating the need Vyas would have. He's preparing from the very beginning. He's preparing for much before even Prithvi actually came to Parmeshti. So that's the story of the 5 Indras.
So thanks Pranshu. अगर आप लोगों ने गीता प्रेस की पुस्तक पढ़ी होगी तो उसमें जब द्रुपद और व्यास का ये कन्वर्सेशन हो रहा है तो उसमें एक इलस्ट्रेशन बना हुआ है कि द्रुपद को एक विजन हुआ है जिसमें वो 5 इंद्र और महादेव हैं. तो बेसिकली ये 5 इंद्र जिनको महादेव ने भेजा था कि भाई आप तो तुम लोग जाओ और ये हमारे थानोस के प्रोजेक्ट में हेल्प करो. And so Vedavyas basically conspired all these events, and Mahadev was an active participant in that entire conspiracy. Now coming to the third major event that we have chosen to cover as part of the setup, where Mahadev was a very active participant, and that is the event which basically lands Arjun with his Gandiva. And we all know that Mahabharat Arjun is the one of the main characters of Mahabharat, and his Gandiva is inseparable. So wherever Arjun is, his Gandiva is. So the Gandiva is as much part of Mahabharata as much Arjun is. Now, how did Arjun get that Gandiva? So everybody knows, most of the people know that Arjun helped Agnidev consume the Khanda forest. And when Agnidev approaches Arjun and asks for his help, Arjun and Sri Krishna, they tell that Arjun says, I have the skill, but I do not have the tools. So the armory of gods, which is under Varun Dev's command, Agnidev summons him and says, boss, I need your help. I need to basically get some weapons out of your armory for my purpose. And वो साइन वाइन करके अपना तो वहां से गांडी और सुदर्शन वगैरह लेके अर्जुन और श्री कृष्ण को दे देते हैं. So why the Agnidev had this need? Why this event happened? Agnidev को खांडव क्यों खाना था? और खांडव अगर अग्निदेव को नहीं खाना होता तो अर्जुन के पास गांडीव भी नहीं आता. और अर्जुन के पास गांडीव नहीं आता, तो अर्जुन वहां युद्ध में खड़े होते और हर दूसरी बाण पे धनुष टूट जाता उनका, बिकॉज दैट्स व्हाट अर्जुन्स प्रॉब्लम वाज, ही वाज सो फास्ट दैट नो regular bow would be able to sustain the speed that he was firing arrows at.
Mahadev would have had a plan B in place.
So basically, so Mahadev is very much involved in the setting up this event also. And how it starts is there is a king called Shwetaki, and he basically decides to perform a 12-year long yajna. And he goes to Mahadev and he says, I want to perform this yajna and I want you to officiate this yajna. तो महादेव says, ये सब मैं नहीं करता, I am above all this. आप मेरा ही एक पार्ट अंश है, आप उनके पास जाइए, वो आपकी हेल्प करेंगे. तो महादेव sends Shwetaki to Durvasa, and Durvasa then officiates this yajna of Shwetaki, where for 12 years constantly Agnidev is fed a lot of ghee and all of the हव्य जो उनको चढ़ाया गया, और वो खा के उनको हो गई बदहजमी. Literally that is what महाभारत says.
Too much fat in the diet.
कि अग्निदेव ने इतना घी खाया कि उनको हो गई बदहजमी, and now Agnidev is in trouble. He is not able to consume things, and if Agnidev is not able to consume things, यज्ञ वगैरह जो है उनका जो इम्पैक्ट है वो कम हो जाएगा, क्योंकि अग्निदेव जो कंज्यूम करते हैं उसका एक भाग जो देवताओं को जाता है वो नहीं जा रहा है बराबर से. तो इट्स अ ग्लोबल प्रॉब्लम, इट्स नॉट एन अग्निदेव पर्सनल प्रॉब्लम. तो अग्निदेव ब्रह्मा जी के पास जाते हैं, बोलते हैं भाई मैंने ये यज्ञ करवाया, महादेव जी ने बोला करवाओ, और अभी देखो क्या हालत हो गई है मेरी श्वेतकी के यज्ञ को देख के. तो ब्रह्मा जी उनको बोलते हैं कि तुम खांडव जो जंगल है उसको तुम कंज्यूम करो, ये तुम्हारी बदहजमी की दवा है, इसके अलावा कोई और दवाई नहीं है. सो अग्निदेव ट्राई करते हैं. अग्निदेव बीइंग अग्निदेव, ही goes and tries, and every time he tries to burn it, Indra basically ensures that he is not able to do so, क्योंकि इंद्र के मित्र रह रहे थे उस जंगल में, तो इंद्र doesn't want अग्निदेव to burn the entire forest. So every time, so Agnidev tries multiple times, but essentially what happens in the end, Agnidev decides to seek help from Arjuna and Shri Krishna, and that is also again instructions of Brahmaji. So basically Mahadev is there, but even Brahma, all the trinities are involved in the whole project of Mahabharat. So in this episode also, it's very equally distributed between all the trinities. Mahadev is there to set up that sacrifice, Brahmaji is there to give advice to Agnidev, and then Vishnuji himself is there as Krishna to participate in this entire event. So the entire trinity participates in this event, and the consequence of this is, in terms of in the context of Mahabharata, is that there are 2-3 main things happen. One is Arjun gets Gandiva and that exhaustible quiver and that divine chariot. So Arjun basically becomes the most formidable warrior, not only in terms of skill, but also in terms of tools. Nobody had the tools that were available to Arjun. So basically, he had both. So basically, like Satyaki, very skilled warrior, but in terms of tools, Arjun had superior tools, if you look at it that way. So that is one. Second, Shri Krishna also got his Sudarshan. Everybody thinks that being Vishnu, he would have probably had the Sudarshan since he was born, but no, he got the Sudarshan during the Pandava event. वो हर चीज आर्मरी से निकाल के इश्यू करवानी पड़ती है, सबको अपना साइन करना पड़ता है, ऐसे ही नहीं मिलता है. And then when you depart, you have to return it back to the armory. And the third event all happened, that was the Nag Ashwasen, who basically survives the Khandav event, and then he appears later on the 17th day of battle, and he requests Karna to basically help him in taking his revenge from Arjun. And he almost succeeded because Karna's arrow hit Arjun's diadem. So the very important chapter in Mahabharat, which basically was again set up by Mahadev, and this had a very large, huge impact in Mahabharat. So as we have discussed the setup bit, Pranshu, you are saying something.
Yeah, so it also illustrates the point. Arjun does not shy from taking help. He is part of the team. He understands that. He doesn't have that ego. That ego, Tejasvi, the Indra who was there in the cave, that was burnt out by Mahadev. So he takes help. He listens to Krishna all the time. He worships his tools. He takes care of the tools also and everything. At the same time, this story also tells you that there is a very powerful ally for Duryodhan, but they reject him. Karna actually rejects the help from Ashwasena. He himself tries to attack, and Shalya advises Karna, you are making a mistake, but Karna doesn't listen to it. And that again illustrates the very, very important difference between the two of them. Arjun is always willing to listen, always willing to, his ears are always open. He's always open to learning, while the other side is closed. They are closed-minded, and they won't take even help, even if it's the common, because Hameri glory hai. I will get that glory and all that. And that is why they basically lost. And this is another part which is illustrated here.
This part is actually very clear in the entire setup of Mahabharat, where Pandavas are always humble, and they always are ready to accept the help. So when Vidur sends someone to dig the tunnel, they don't say, "Nahi, hum khod lenge." Right? We have Bhim. He will punch a tunnel out of the. So, we have this legendary story of Bhim Kund, where Bhim basically punches a hole in the ground and gets water out of it. We have in Madhya Pradesh a place called Bhim Kund. The legend is associated with that. But Yudhishthir didn't say, Vidur, don't need your help.
Another place is that the Bhimdhar falls and the Gadadhar falls. All these stories are across. Bhim could do the same.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, that they were ready to understand the situation. They had the ability to analyze the situation, and they had the ability to also seek help. And if somebody, and all this help was not what you can say is not free, right? So they paid the price for all these things. It's not like they got something which is for like getting the Gandiva. Arjun actually had to fight Indra and all the gods, and that was
he actually fought his own father.
Fascinating battle.
Yeah, he fought his own father. He was willing to do that, to help out.
So for this episode of Kavach Kundal, many people say that Indra was there to protect his son, and अपने बेटे को बचाने के लिए उन्होंने कर्ण को ऐसे कर दिया. But that's not true, because Indra helped Arjun twice, but both the times he actually sought something in return from Arjun. Right, so even when the episode where Arjun gets divine weapons from Indra, he actually asks Arjun to go and kill the Nivat Kavach and the demons in Hiranyakashipu, which were somebody who anybody couldn't do. Even Ravan couldn't defeat them. Right, even Indra couldn't defeat them, and Indra says, "Jao tum maar ke aao." So it was not an easy task that he did in return for this gift that he got from gods. And even when he fights Mahadev, he actually is beaten black and blue by Mahadev before he gets Pashupat Astra. So aisa nahi hai ki he got everything easy. There was no easy things for anyone in Mahabharat, right? Nobody gets anything easy. Be it on the other side also, you have to pay the price for all the goods that you receive, all the blessings that you receive, and that is demonstrated throughout. The only part is that Arjun never complained about it. He did it graciously. And when Angarpan was offering him a free gift, he said, "No, I don't want free gifts." Later on, Vyas taught the same Vidya to Yudhishthir, which he used to go, right? But he could have taken it from Angarpan earlier, but he did not do that. He actually...
Vyas also gave it in return for Yudhishthir following his instructions for Dyut. Again, something which is already set up. That would lead to the war. So Vyas is actually paying the price for that.
Correct. So Vyas is paying the price by seeing his children die in front of him, grandchildren die in front of him. So the price is much bigger for Vyas than any other character in the Mahabharata. Right? So for Bhishma also, they were not his biological children. Vyas, they were literally his biological grandchildren. So he had paid the grand price in the end, and he would have suffered, but never probably shown it to people. But he warned Satyavati because he understood that his mother will also go through this grief. So he warned Satyavati to go away and don't come back, basically. Yeah. So anyways, since we are talking about Mahadev in Mahabharat, so we will now move on to the next part.
Just one point about Pandava. see, some people they say Pandava was a genocide. So,
Yes, many
Arjuna
people.
and Krishna massacred innocent animals and tribals. So, they try to project that Arjuna and Krishna killed tribals, the Nagas. So that is why they, Takshaka and others, they tried to take revenge. So this is a narrative which unfortunately some people are doing. But today's story, the real truth is out. What happened? If they had not done it, then Agni would not be in a position to, consume offerings given. So it would have affected the entire system. So it was necessary to do that. It was not that they simply went and killed because, they loved to kill. So we know there is a later story wherein deer come to Yudhishthira and say that our population is coming down. So he says, okay, we will leave this forest and go somewhere else. So it is not that they were cruel who wanted to kill. So there is even one story, one person has written a book. He says that Kunti died in the fire because her son had, burnt Pandava forest and killed people. So, these are all meaningless interpretations.
And again, when we talk about it, Takshak, right? Takshak's daughter Jwala is married to one of the ancestors. Every one of Kaurav and Pandav is actually a descendant of Takshak himself. And not only that, Takshak's son was killed by Garud, and the widow of that son, Ulupi, chose Arjun to give a son as in Kshetraj Putra. So Iravan was actually born as a grandson of Takshak. So Arjun had given that already. So there was no such thing as Arjun took Takshak didn't even come to fight. Takshak didn't even show up to fight in that one. Because he didn't need to, because Arjun had already given him something. And what he even Takshak is also god of, he's also one of the chief Nagas. He's sitting right next to Maheshwar and everything. He's understood. He's part of the team. He's part of that group. He's part of that understanding. And that is what people try to portray them as somebody who will take revenge or something. When Takshak killed Parikshit, he was forced to by the Shrap of Shringi. It wasn't like Takshak really wanted to do that.
And one more thing, Indra chose Takshak over his son.
Exactly.
He said, Takshak, I will protect Takshak. You are my son, but I will fight with you.
And
so, there are people who say, real son.
He took Takshak's side against Janamjay and Parikshit also.
Yes. So it is not that, Arjuna got preference from Indra or Indra was partial.
That's what I'm saying. इंद्र ने कवच कुंडल लेने आया था तो कवच कुंडल को फेंक के नहीं मार सकता था कर्ण उसको, right? It's something that would protect Karna. It would not help him kill Arjuna.
Adding the number of times he was defeated.
Seen it multiple times in the past that kavach kundal is not helping him kill Arjuna, and his whole objective, the way he was consumed by this rivalry that he has imagined in his head, that he was ready to do anything for that, and he basically traded a defensive armor for an offensive weapon which was bound to kill Arjuna had he used it on him, right? So it was a very thought out trade.
Well, and there were a couple of caveats also. He could only use that. Yeah, he could only use that when his own life was at peril. So he had to come to that level where Arjuna is about to kill him. Then only he can use it. And the point is, if Arjuna ever brings himself to that level at Karna is too late. That the Shakti would have been left in the quiver itself.
Knew that. Indra actually warned him that jo tum ye kar rahe ho, it will not help you. Right? He says that whoever is protected by Narayan himself, no Shakti of mine will help you kill him. Exactly. I can give you, the trade is there, I will trade it, exchange it, whatever it is, but you will not win. So Indra also warns him of that ki bhai one time use hai, but Arjun pe bhi agar wo use karta to in all likelihood Arjun would have not died, because it's all hypothetical. Many people keep on bringing these conversations on Twitter and the places where I keep responding that boss, these are all hypotheticals. हाइपोथेटिकल्स में आप एक तरफ assumptions बना रहे हो, दूसरे तरफ भी बनाओ ना. somebody said कि अगर वैष्णवास्त्र नहीं रोकते श्री कृष्ण तो अर्जुन मर जाता. मैंने कहा क्यों, वो पाशुपत अस्त्र यूज कर लेता. right? In पाशुपत अस्त्र description it is clearly mentioned that it can counter any weapon.
Varunastra कर लेता. Remember अश्वत्थामा ने वैष्णवास्त्र छोड़ा था तो Arjun had put in Varunastra which protected Bhim. Bhim said मैं लड़ूंगा.
Yes.
And so Varunastra was protecting Bhim. So same thing he could have used
वर्णास्त्र
on
जो
himself.
हीट जनरेट हो रही थी नारायणास्त्र से तो भीम के ऊपर, अर्जुन प्रोटेक्टेड भीम बाय फायरिंग अ वरुणास्त्र, सो इट गेव हिम सम प्रोटेक्शन फॉर अ स्मॉल टाइम,
हम तभी शिव
which
जी पे
basically
वो
opened the
पानी चढ़ा
window
के
for
रखते
these
हैं.
guys to go and disarm him. So basically I'm saying that hypotheticals पे conversation करना बहुत difficult है, क्योंकि फिर आप कोई भी assumption ले सकते हो, आप अपने convenience के हिसाब से कुछ भी assumption लेके कुछ भी prove कर सकते हो. We have a proper written text available to us which is very much detailed account of things. उन्होंने कुछ मिस नहीं किया है. आप सोचो, मतलब एक एक दिन का युद्ध 150 पेज में एक्सप्लेन किया है, क्या ही मिस किया होगा. लोगों के 150 पेज के नॉवेल होते हैं पूरे पूरे, राइट? तो इसमें इन्होंने एक एक दिन का युद्ध 150 200 पेज में, like 14th day war is actually 300 pages in the book. So how detailed it can be, you have everything there, read it, understand it, and you will find the meaning out of it. But open mind से पढ़ो, अध्ययन की दृष्टि से पढ़ो, अपना पॉइंट प्रूव करने के से मत पढ़ो कि मुझे एक स्क्रीनशॉट मिल गया एक श्लोक कहीं का तो वो मैंने चिपका दिया, देखो यहाँ पे ये लिखा है, उसमें 1 लाख और श्लोक है, बाकी में क्या लिखा है वो भी तो पढ़ो. खाली एक श्लोक से आप क्या ही बता दोगे. तो जो मैंने वो भीष्म का कोट में बार बार रिट्वीट करता रहता हूं कि कलयुग में लोग आपको ऐसे मिलेंगे जो मिसकोट किया करेंगे, सेलेक्टिवली कोट किया करेंगे. हमने कहा भाई साहब, इनको देवदत्त पटनायक का पहले से पता था. But so coming to the next part of this Mahadev and Mahabharat topic, the next part is the origin of some of the characters and some of the basically mostly characters who came into existence through Mahadev's boon to basically achieve a certain purpose, and then that purpose basically got fulfilled during the events of Mahabharat, which we will cover in the next episode of this Kaisuni podcast. So first of that topic on the origin aspect of the Mahabharat, where Mahadev played a very significant role, is the birth of Duryodhan, and how he was so strong as he was. And Pranshu will talk about that. So over to you, Pranshu.
Right. So actually, from the very beginning, if you look at it in the Adi Parv himself, one day, Bhisham, he's the father. He's like the father. He's raised the three. He brings in Vidur and he says to Vidur, देखो बेटा, तुम 3 भाई हो, विदुर, धृतराष्ट्र and पांडु. तो मैंने 3 लड़कियां सेलेक्ट की हैं. एक शूरसेन की कुंती, शूरसेन की पुत्री, कुंती भोज की दत्तक पुत्री कुंती, and then there is this lady. She is the daughter of Subal, who has been blessed by Mahadev to have 100 sons. And one of the biggest problems from the very beginning, from the Bhisham taking that oath, had been कि वहां पे बच्चे नहीं हो रहे थे. All the time they were basically saying that the sheen हो रहा है कुल, खत्म हो रहा है कुल. So this is going to guarantee 100 sons. So basically he says कि for Dhritarashtra, and of course Madri is the third one he mentions. I mean, if you look at it, that conversation, I always look at it कि आपने अपने सबसे बड़े उसको बुलाया है, सबसे स्मार्ट चलो विदुर, सबसे, और आपने 3 कन्या का नाम दिया, उसको नहीं बोला कि उसकी कौन है. The 2 went to Pandu, 1 went to Dhritarashtra, and Vidur got nobody. So that is the funny part of it. I always looked at it कि Vidur was looked upon as Bhisham, as somebody like him, to take care of the family from outside. So that conversation not only tells you something about Vidur, it also tells you about how Bhisham viewed the family, and how Mahadev was already in there. महादेव ने ऑलरेडी कह दिया था कि इसको, वरना वो गांधारी की तरफ देखते नहीं है. गांधारी की नहीं आती वहां पे, कोई और आती प्रिंसेस, तो शकुनी नहीं आ पाते, तो पासे नहीं आ पाते. So बहुत चीज इसमें आपकी वो होती है. दूसरी चीज है कि she also made Vyas happy. So Vyas also, gave her the, a double boon on it, right? You will have 100 sons. And eventually that happened when she basically miscarried and that iron ball was born. Vyas came back and he converted that iron ball into the 100 Kauravas and their sister Dushla. And that's how all the Kauravas were born. So Mahadev is basically directly responsible first for advertising that, there is this lady, you should marry her. And she is very, very good in everything. Think about it. If Gandhari had married somebody else, we wouldn't be talking about Kaurav. Then Kunti had to be then married to somebody else, and there would be other family where there will be 5 brothers and 100 cousins. So So, and that's actually where the part of it, and if you look at the various Garhwal and Himachal Mahabharats, there's this ki Fala village mein there were two brothers, and one married Nansukhi, other married Gyansukhi, and she had 60 sons or 100 sons, and other had 5 sons or 12 children, of which 5 are sons. So basically that the whole story is again and again repeated. It's so much part of our culture. And the second part of it is that now this is another thing. ABP News had said कि Gandhari sauce, जिसको भी देख लेती थी, his body would become so solid and he wouldn't be unable to. So basically, even B.R. Chopra made that, like, that Rahi Masum Raza wrote a very good, but he made so many, like, he added so many ridiculous myths. I mean, it shouldn't have been added in. Andhe ka putra Andha is one of them, but the other one is this one. Duryodhan decides to go to, Gandhari says to Duryodhan, tum mujhse milne aao, but don't wear any clothes. So Duryodhan was going commando, and at that point in time, Krishna comes and says, oh, shame, shame. And Duryodhan then puts on that leaves, and that's why his only thighs are exposed. This is ridiculous. Gandhari is mother to 100 sons. Why would you choose to protect one and not the other? No mother. And of mother of the like of Gandhari, who's so powerful that her anger, the Dharmraj ka angutha jal gaya.
Kala pad gaya.
Kala pad gaya. The one who could curse Krishna himself, ki tumhari family, jis tarah se tumne meri family ko khatam kiya, tumhari family bhi khatam hogi. That mother, why would she differentiate from one son to the other?
And she actually wanted to throw Duryodhan out multiple times.
And she's the one who was saying again and again.
And she will protect him. I mean, she would have protected Vikarn if that was the choice given.
If he was given, if she was given a choice of protecting, she would have protected 50, 60 of them also, and said कि बेटा दूसरी साइड जा,
only one.
दूसरी साइड जा लड़ने के लिए.
मतलब एबीपी न्यूज के हिसाब से तो किसी को भी कर सकते थे. अगर मान लो हम वन टाइम यूज भी मान लें तो विकर्ण को बचा सकते थे. He was one of the better sons she had.
Exactly. So Vikarn, Chittasen, any of those, there were like so many others. There's a little Durmukh. There are several. So
I mean, 100 में सारे खराब नहीं हो सकते ना. 2-4 तो अच्छे होंगे मिनिमम at least.
I would say आधे से ज्यादा अच्छे थे. But Duryodhan इतना हावी हुआ ना सब पे कि they lost their voice. That's the other part of it. युधिष्ठिर को भीम कहता था, मैं इसके हाथ जला दूंगा. अर्जुन बोलता था, शांत गदाधारी भीम शांत. So they had this choice of statement and everything. And Nakul said maybe, daddy, like, because you always saw Yudhishthira as a father figure, may not have complained much, and he also liked
Nakul. ने मरते समय बोला भी था कि अभी तुम्हारे यही पिता हैं, तो मतलब
so basically, but the thing is, Duryodhan literally suppressed every one of them. Even Dushasan doesn't have that much. वो Dushasan से बोलता कि वो कहते हैं टेक ऑफ हर क्लोज, और बोलता नहीं, द्रौपदी सती नारी को देख के मैंने चीरहरण का आइडिया ड्रॉप कर दिया. दुशासन वुडंट हैव कंप्लेंट. वो विदु विनोद चोपड़ा कंप्लेंट इन दैट मूवी, but Dushasan wouldn't have complained.
Dushasan I describe as that Robert character in that villain henchman, कि इसको ये कर दो तो ओके बॉस. तो he was okay boss. बॉस ने बोल दिया, मैंने कर दिया. He had no thought, no agency of his own.
Exactly.
And maybe Dushasan being the second to, and in fact we recently published a blog where the Bhartiji has part of that Bhartiji's blog, that the other sons of Gandhari, they were all born 1 month apart. So it was not like that they had too much of age gap. Like in case of Pandavas, there was Yudhishthir, then Bhim, then Arjun, then Nakul said they were like 10-12 years younger than Yudhishthir at least, right? So that made that dynamic very different. In case of Kauravas, all the brothers were of the same age essentially, right? So there was no difference in, like, nobody was looking up to someone or looking down upon someone. They were all part of that coterie. That is why I say कि एक दो तो अच्छे निकले होंगे, क्योंकि वो hive mind, exactly. So Duryodhan being the eldest, खाली एक ही distinction था कि Duryodhan भैया बड़े हैं, बाकी हम सब एक साथ हैं. Correct. Exactly. So they would have followed Duryodhan. So Dushasan was most likely a representative of all the other 99 brothers. That is why only Vikarn has been made to stand out. बाकी भाइयों के तो ज्यादा नाम भी मेंशन नहीं करते. एक बार मेंशन करते हैं पैदा होते समय, और दूसरी बार मेंशन करते हैं मरते समय. जब भीम मारता है तो सबके नाम काउंट करते हैं कि फलाना 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 को भीम ने मार दिया. उसके अलावा पूरी महाभारत में केवल 3 भाइयों के नाम बताए गए, दुर्योधन, दुशासन, विकर्ण.
एक जगह चित्रसेन आता है, एक जगह
बहुत रेयरली, बट आई एम सेइंग बहुत कम आते हैं. So that's why I'm saying कि भाई अगर तुम्हारा वन टाइम यूज पावर था तो आप विकर्ण को ही बचा सकते थे, क्योंकि दुर्योधन को तो गांधारी ने स्वयं धृतराष्ट्र से मल्टीपल टाइम्स बोला था कि इसको फिकवा दो बाहर. हमने पहले भी बोला था फिकवा दो. Right, so why will you choose to protect that son who you yourself wanted to throw out?
But Duryodhan had that power. But Duryodhan had that power. He had that.
So now coming to that part, how he had it. So okay, come back.
Actually, इसकी story और आती है. So there is this event in one parv. So actually, see, we're talking about the events which happened much before the time of Mahabharat. But in Mahabharat, they're telling Vyas actually told it as a story of humans. ये जो है हमारी, वो कहा है कि देवलोक की अपनी अलग है, नागलोक की अपनी अलग है, इवन असुरलोक की अपनी अलग महाभारत के सीक्वेंस है, सेम ही सीक्वेंस है, कोई बदलता नहीं, कहानी कोई बदलती नहीं है उसमें, कहानी वही की वही होती है. द हीरो इज हीरो, विलन इज विलन, बट ये मानव की है. सो the story basically he follows the Manav principles. That's why Satyavati, Bhishma ki story, Satyavati and all that. So there he basically, there's an event in one parv when Duryodhan says कि मैं जाके इनको वहां पे वन में मारूंगा. And there's this घोष यात्रा whole that event which basically comes totally like वो कहते हैं ना, totally जो आपने जो सोचा था और जो पाया वो बिल्कुल totally opposite होता है. In the end they are actually rescued by Bhim. Duryodhan and this again just showcases the nobility of Pandavas वगैरह. And basically Yudhishthir in a way is just saying something, and लोग बोलेंगे मैं बोल रहा हूँ कि वो violent थे वगैरह, नहीं, इसको मैं मारूंगा, साला कोई और क्यों मारेगा आके, I will punish him. So basically, but Duryodhan is basically totally humiliated and he decides to commit suicide. तो जब वो सुसाइड के लिए वो बैठ जाते हैं, and he actually does that, he कुशा बिठाते हैं, वो अलग से वो बैठ जाते हैं वगैरह.
दुशासन का राज्याभिषेक भी कर देता है वो.
दुशासन का राज्याभिषेक. अब वो लक्ष्मण को भी साइड कर देते हैं. There is actually lot of other folk stories about his wife also, but ये है कि he chooses Dushasan as his successor. Because the brothers were very much alike. They were born almost at the same time. So they're thinking he chose the brother he thinks will be like me. And that would be very interesting to see how Dushasan would have turned out. But that didn't happen.
I mean, he himself used to complain कि भाई पापा को नहीं राजा बनाया, छोटे भाई को बना दिया, और खुद भी वही दुशासन को युवराज घोषित कर दिया अपने बेटे को छोड़ के. तो वो अगला दुर्योधन बनता. अगर चलो इनकी बात भी हो जाती तो अगला दुर्योधन लक्ष्मण बनने के तैयार होता कि बताओ पापा ने मुझे राजा नहीं बनाया, छोटे भाई को बना दिया.
Exactly. And Dushasan's sons actually turned out to be a little better warriors also.
So he killed Abhimanyu essentially. I mean,
and गुंडे भी थे. So but in this context
महादेव पे आते हैं.
हाँ, तो वो जब उन्होंने बिठा लिया था ना कि they were about to die, तो जो दानव देवदानव जो दानव से जब पृथ्वी आई थी ना कि हमको बचाओ, तो अदर साइड इज ऑल्सो वर्किंग. देयर इज नॉट कि वो सब बैठे हुए, सब अकर्मिक नहीं बैठे हैं. दैट इज द वन थिंग यू हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड. इट्स अ कर्म, इट्स अ वेरी कार्मिक epic from the very beginning. Everybody is trying to do their best. And दानवों ने बोला यार हमने पूरा सेटअप कर दिया, सारे आतिताई कर दिए, इतने हम दो हमारे 102 कर करके हमने सब तरफ आतिताई बिछा दिए, एंड ये सारा सब कुछ सोल्यूशन सॉल्व हो रहा है, एंड ऑल ऑफ अ सडन ये खत्म हो रहा है. This idea is ending. This Duryodhan जिसको हमने बनाया था, so then they call in, they send some asur over, he goes to the library, takes out Atharva Veda, then they bring in all the Shukracharya's mantras and Brihaspati's mantras, and they do this Vatyayan Yagya, and Kritya appears. And they say to Kritya, go and fetch Duryodhan from the Manav Lok. And वो Kritya goes and he fetches them, and suddenly he is like, अरे मैं कहाँ आ गया? तो basically he says कि बेटा हमको मालूम था तुझसे नहीं हो पाएगा, बट हम तेरे को बताते हैं कि हमने इतनी पूजा की थी, इतनी हमने तपस्या की थी महादेव की, टू क्रिएट अ पावरफुल फिगर फॉर आवर साइड. महादेव इज वेरी वेरी इम्पार्शियल. मैं दोनों की मदद करूंगा. मैं एक तरफ अपनी नारायणी सेना, अपनी शिव सेना भेजूंगा, और एक तरफ मैं अकेला निहत्था लड़ूंगा. सो वो भी किया था उन्होंने. तो उन्होंने ये बोला कि उन्होंने
अगले बार में बताएंगे.
हाँ, उन्होंने जो पावर दिया, तो he created with the vajra he created the body, the top part of the body of Duryodhan till Nabi was created by vajra, by the blessings of Shiva himself, and Parvati then created using the flowers, created the lower part. So basically, first of all, तो there was कि उसको वो था वहां पे जब उसको लेके आए, बेटा सुसाइड नहीं करनी चाहिए, सुसाइड बुरी चीज है. किसी असुर ने बोला सुसाइड क्या होती है, बोलता थोड़ी सी जरा सी इंसल्ट हो जाती है, सुई की तरह चुभ जाती है तो ये सुसाइड करने लग जाता है. Anyway, so jokes aside,
सुसाइड वाज हिज मोस्ट पोटेंट वेपन.
हर समय वो कहता रहता था, मैं जी आत्मश्लाघा कर लूंगा, मैं मर जाऊंगा, मैं मर जाऊंगा.
आप मामा जी मेरी हेल्प करो नहीं तो मैं मर जाऊंगा, पिताजी मेरी बात मानो नहीं तो मैं मर जाऊंगा. So he kept doing that all the time.
Exactly. वो बोलता कि उसने शादी भी इसी तरह से की होगी कि उसकी शादी नहीं कराई तो मैं
कर्ण, वो लड़की लेके आओ तो नहीं तो मैं मर जाऊंगा, तो कर्ण जाके लेके आ गया.
So और उसलिए वहां पे बेसिकली दे कन्विंस दुर्योधन कि बेटा लुक एट यू, तुम महान हो, तुम दानी हो, मैं तो कहता हूं तुम पुरुष ही नहीं हो, वज्र पुरुष हो. So basically
महादेव के अवतार हो तुम.
Exactly. So that is where the power of Duryodhan had come from, that his upper body till Nabhi was full. So that's actually another joke on it. With that invulnerable body, he was given a Shiv Kavach later on. And उसपे भी he got defeated. वो कवच आपका कुछ नहीं कर लेगा, कुंडल आपका कुछ नहीं कर लेगा.
हम लोग अगले पार्ट में कवर करेंगे प्रांशु.
But
let's not give too many spoilers of the next episode. So everyone, this was the teaser for the next episode. We will cover this in the next episode.
Exactly. And not only that, so not only Mahadev created Duryodhan like this, he also created, so for example in Dakshinatya we are told that from the Rudras, so Nirati, the Rudra, is born as Ghatotkach. We have Vishkhambh is born as Kripacharya, and there is also Ahirbudanne is born as Bhurishrava, Ajayakpad is born as Bhuri, Virupaksh is born as Shal, Somadutta is Vrishkhambh. No, Vrishkhambh is one of the others is Pinaki or somebody is born as Somadutta. Even on the other side, मैं कह रहा हूँ कि दोनों side को, he would Sahadev, the son of Jarasandh, is born from one of these 11. So he basically, the Rudra का वो था, and then Mahadev himself is in the book. He comes as a son of Shiva himself, Shuk. Shuk is an avatar. Bhrigu had actually hit Vishnu on the head, on the chest, and that's why that Vats, that Shrivat's chinna is there on the Vishnu's breast, right? So Bhrigu is born as Vyad, as a part of Shiva's avatar, and of course he is born as Ashwathama. So Shiv basically comes on both sides to help out, because he says कि अगर एक side powerful हो गई ना, 5 इंद्र मैंने बना दिए, तो वो तो सीधे वो कर देंगे. I got 5 messes on one side.
You need to kill both the sides.
No, I got 5 messes on one side, so I have to give 5 buckets on the other side.
रह जाएगा.
Exactly. So there has to be a second war to basically start it. So he basically balanced it completely. So that's how he created all that.
Thank you, Pranshu. So this was basically the origin of Duryodhan and his strong body and how it was connected to Mahadev. Duryodhan being the central figure of Mahabharat that caused the great war at Kurukshetra. Now moving on to another, and Pranshu also mentioned about another central figure connected to Mahadev, which was Ashwathama. Now coming to another important character from Mahabharat, who was responsible for killing Bhishma, and that is Shikhandi. So how Shikhandi and his story is connected to Mahadev, that is something that Deepak will talk about. Over to you, Deepak.
So everyone knows the story of Amba. So just a quick recap. So when Vichitravirya's marriage had to be performed, Vichitravirya was Satyavati's second son. Her first son died. So now the younger second son had to sit on the throne, and they needed brides. So then Amba, Ambika and Ambalika, they were the daughters of the king of Kashi. So now for some reason he doesn't invite Hastinapura for the Swayamvara. So based on Satyavati's order, Bhishma goes and he brings all the three of them. Now what has happened in the case of Amba is, she wanted to marry Shalva, king of Shalva.
Hello.
And she had already said that I will garland you, I will select you. It was a match fixing. It was already done. But then what happens? Bhishma comes and takes her away. Now, interestingly, while he's taking her away, she does not say anything. She just sits quietly. So then Shalva comes to fight. He defeats Shalva. Again, she does not say anything. Then they go back. And there she tells that, no, I don't want to marry Vichitravirya. I wanted to marry Shalva. So then Bhishma says, okay, you go. So he does not create any problem. But then Shalva says, Bhishma took you and went. So how can I marry you now? You are Bhishma's property. Go to him. So again she goes back. Bhishma says, no, I have taken a vow. I cannot marry you. So then what happens? She goes to, there's a long story. Of course, we'll just cut it short. She goes to Parshurama and she says that you have to help me. So Parshurama tells Bhishma that you marry her. So Parshurama, as we know, is Bhishma's guru. But he says that no, I have taken a vow that is more important. I will not marry. So then there is a big war between Parshurama and Bhishma on Kurukshetra itself, 23 days. So finally, the war ends in a draw. So both of them go away. And Amba doesn't get anything. She does not get Bhishma. Parshurama also can't help her. So then she decides that I have to, at any cost, kill Bhishma. I have to take revenge. So she goes to Vatsabhumi. And there she starts performing penance, austerities. She gives up food, water, does puja to Mahadeva. There are also many other, stages and others there. So
half
they
of our
see her
body
and
becomes a
they're
river.
surprised.
Yeah, half our body
Yes.
becomes a river.
Yes, just coming to that part. Then Ganga comes there. Now Ganga knows that she is doing this because Bhishma should be killed. So she tells that what you are doing you will not achieve. If you continue to do that, you will become a river, and that river will have water only for few months in a year, and it will be infested with crocodiles. So, but she says, no, I am going to go ahead because I want to kill Bhishma. So she splits into two parts. One part becomes a river. So that river is called Amba. So it seems even now it is infested by crocodiles, and there is water only for some time of the year. So then Mahadev comes there. So she says, I want to kill Bhishma. He says, yes, I give you that boon. But then she says, I am a woman. How can I kill? She says, you will be born as a man. You will be born to Drupada and you will kill. Now at the same time, or sometime later, Drupada wants a son. He prays to Mahadeva and he says, I want a son. She says, you will get a daughter who will become a son. So Drupada is confused, but he believes Mahadeva. Then when he gets a daughter, he tells his wife that let us bring up this daughter as a son. So her name is Shikhandini. So they bring him up as Shikhandi. Like a man, he is sent to Drona for training and he gets married, but then they find out. So then there is a big hangama that is going to be exposed as a woman disguised as a man. So he goes to the forest and she's weeping. She doesn't know what to do. So then a yaksha comes there, Stunakarna, and the yaksha helps. He says, let us exchange our genders, gender reassignment. So it was there very long back. So we exchange our genders. You become a man, I'll become a woman. But then Kubera finds out. He says, what are you doing? Without my permission, you are doing all these things. So she says, this will become permanent. Permanently, yes, Shikhandini will become Shikhandi and you will become a woman. But then the Stunakarna prays says that, no, please help me, don't do this. So she says, the day Shikhandi dies, your gender will come back, you will once again become a man. And Shikhandini becomes Shikhandi and fights, and is of course Drupada's son, so she fights along with the Pandavas. Now Bhishma knows this story. So there is Amba Upakyana in the Bhishma Parva, so wherein he tells this story to Duryodhan. He says that, yes, Shikhandini was a woman. Shikhandini was the woman who became Shikhandi, so I will not fight with a woman. So then he himself tells, so another thing they say is, Arjuna killed Bhishma unfairly. But it was Bhishma himself who told, put Shikhandi in front and then fight with me. So Bhishma knows what is going to happen.
Saying that even Duryodhan knew about this. It's not
Yes,
something that
Duryodhana knew this.
तो भीष्म ने अपने मर्जी से कुछ कर दिया and all that. Bhishma was very fair. He told Duryodhan clearly that I will not strike at Shikhandi, no matter what. If you are okay with it, you can make me commander. Otherwise, अपने दोस्त को बना लो, वो लड़ लेगा. Duryodhan knew that his dost was not better than Bhishma. Even without his dost, he can win when Bhishma is there. So this is Duryodhan's own actions. So don't people start giving gyan about friendship and all. No, neither Duryodhan was a great friend, nor Karna was a great friend. They both were selfish and they both were working on their best interest. Now, Shikhandi was brought in from day one. If Bhishma was to drop his weapons just by a mere sight of Shikhandi, then to pehle din hi Bhishma mar jate. Because Shikhandi was there in the battle, he would have come in front of Bhishma multiple times in those 10 days. He never threw away his weapons. Suddenly, 10th day, nothing changed.
Actually,
Right? 9th day, as you were saying, that he
realizing.
gave this thought to Yudhishthir, ki bhai, you keep Shikhandi at front so that he can keep weakening me. And I was reading somebody's analysis on Twitter, which I found very interesting. So I think Sai asked this question that then what did Shikhandi actually achieve? Why that 10th day was very different? So somebody had mentioned it. I don't remember who did it, but the very important point was that Shikhandi was a living reminder to Bhishma of all the wrong things he has done to preserve his oath. And by constant presence in front of him, basically made him decide to get rid of everything and just leave out. He has done enough damage to the Kuru, to the earth, to the society by just being true to his oath. And Shikhandi was the constant reminder who was constantly in front of him on 10th day. And finally, by the end of the day, he said, "Yaar, ab main ja raha hu." Because Bhishma would not have died had he not wanted to die, right? That was
the
thing he had. And that was proven. He didn't die, exactly. So the point is that it was all, and he didn't drop any weapons. He fought like a Kshatriya till the last moment. He did not let go of his duty as a Kshatriya. He did not let go of his duty as a protector of the Kuru throne.
Arjuna broke his bow 2 times, 2 or 3 times.
As a commander of the Kaurav army. Right, so he was true to all those duties till the last moment, and he stayed true to his oath also that I will not strike a woman. So that is a very fascinating character, Bhishma. We don't actually analyze Bhishma that much, but maybe we should do one session analyzing Bhishma also, how he lived a life. मतलब इतना लंबा life था. There are so many things. हमने एबीपी न्यूज में देखा था कि कर्ण ने अपना यौवन दान किया था. क्या पता भीष्म को ही किया हो, इतना लंबा जी गया. चाचा कर्ण. हाँ, मतलब भरी सभा में किया था तो हो सकता है और बहुत सारे लोगों ने ले लिया हो. Why only one person? उसमें लिखा था ना भरी सभा में यौवन दान कर दिया था, तो हो सकता है कुछ 8-10 लोगों ने.
ये चैट जीपीटी का ये होता है कि चैट जीपीटी कुछ भी उठा के ले आता है.
So anyways, thank you Deepak for the insights into this important character. And we have very little time left. We have already crossed 1 hour mark. We were hoping to cover this all in 45 minutes, but Mahabharat is such an interesting topic among us that we keep digressing and we keep bringing in more elements and keep filling in the time. So good that we decided to break it into 2 episodes. Just at the last moment, one more important character that we want to cover, and this character, why I want to cover, because all the other characters, all of us knew. This character, very few people talk about, very few people know about this character and how this character impacted the whole events of Mahabharat. And that is the character of Bhurishrava. So basically the story goes that during Devki Swayamvar, there was a confrontation where Sini sided with Vasudev, and Sini and Somadutta had a very big fight. And in that fight, Somadutta was defeated, and then Sini humiliated Somadutta. Now, after that humiliation, Somadutta penance to Mahadev. जो भी humiliate होता था महाभारत में, वो महादेव का penance करता था. चाहे वो अंबा हो, चाहे वो सीनी हो, सोमदत्त हो, चाहे वो जयद्रथ हो, किसी को भी मतलब रिवेंज लेना होता था तो महादेव यूज्ड टू बी द गो टू गॉड फॉर रिवेंज. तो सीनी कैसे रिवेंज लेने के लिए सोमदत्त ने पेनेंस किया कि जैसे मुझे ह्यूमिलिएशन बर्दाश्त करना पड़ा है, द सेम वे माय चिल्ड्रन विल ह्यूमिलिएट सीनीज सक्सेसर्स. And this boon resulted into the 14th day duel between Bhurishrava and Satyaki, where Bhurishrava humiliated Satyaki by dragging him by his hair, the same way Somadutta was dragged by Sini. So this incident also became very important, not only from the Mahabharat perspective, but also for the perspective of the later episode of Yaduvansa's destruction. Because it was this incident where Satyaki kills Bhurishrava, who was unarmed, and then later Kritavarma taunts Bhurishrava 36 years later, and that becomes a big fight, and Krishna's son side with Satyaki, and a lot of Yadu warriors side with Kritavarma, and essentially they all kill each other. So the Bhurishrava, in my opinion, was one of the very important characters, and honestly speaking, if I remember correctly, the only character for whom Danveer word has been used is for Bhurishrava in Mahabharata.
Yupketu.
People don't.
Bhurishrava.
I mean,
Danveer,
Bhurishrava.
Yupketu.
So I'm saying कर्ण के लिए दानवीर शब्द मैंने नहीं पढ़ा है महाभारत में, लेकिन भूरिश्रवा के लिए I remember that word being used. एंड भूरिश्रवा के जो ध्वजा पे एम्ब्लेम था या ध्वजा पे जो इंसिग्निया थी, दैट वाज ऑफ ए यज्ञ की वेदी थी उसके ध्वजा पे. या आप जब रणभूमि खेलेंगे तो आपको पता लगेगा कि किसके ध्वजा पे क्या इंसिग्निया थी. तो इस सारी जानकारी के लिए आपको रणभूमि खेलना पड़ेगा. रणभूमि गेम खरीदिए. हम लोग playranbhoomi.com पे जाके उसमें महाभारत के युद्ध से लेकर बहुत सारे इवेंट्स जो हैं जो हमने उसमें डाले हैं, और कई सारे ऐसे इवेंट्स हैं जो आप लोगों को शायद नहीं पता होंगे. जो कॉमन रेगुलर मतलब जो कैजुअल ऑब्जर्वर्स ऑफ महाभारत है उनको नहीं पता होंगे. जिन्होंने स्टडी की है उनको 100% पता होंगे और उनको अच्छा लगेगा, मजा आएगा. और ये हमने बच्चों के लिए बनाया है इस हिसाब से कि पेरेंट्स को भी कुछ नया सीखने को मिलेगा. तो इट वुड बी अ गुड बॉन्डिंग बिटवीन पेरेंट एंड चिल्ड्रन. सो एक और अनाउंसमेंट करना है. सो बाय द वे, Bhurishrava was born by the boon of Mahabharat. So this another important character of Mahabharat originated from the boon of Mahadev. And now we will close this topic for today. In next episode of Mahadev in Mahabharat, we will cover the actual events of Mahabharat which were influenced by Mahadev. So Mahadev was very much part of the battle of Mahabharat, post and pre both, and we will talk about how he was there and how that presence of Mahabharat impacted the battle and the outcome of the battle. Now, before we close today's session, this is an already announcement of the next session that we will cover these. One more announcement I want to make. बहुत बार हमने सुना है कि रावण ये था, रावण वो था, रावण ने केवल शूर्पणखा को किडनैप ही तो किया था, क्या ही उसकी इतनी बड़ी गलती थी, उसने हाथ लगाया सीता जी को, सीता जी को किडनैप ही किया था, वो तो बदला ले रहा था.
वो क्या हो सकता है, हम नई कहानी बना देते हैं.
नहीं, so but the point I am trying to make is that I have often heard people say कि मतलब बिलीव दैट रावण की अकेली गलती ये थी कि सीता जी का अपहरण किया था, और उसके लिए वो एक बहुत ही कन्वीनियंट जस्टिफिकेशन ढूंढ लेते हैं कि शूर्पणखा का अपमान हुआ था, इसका बदला लेने के लिए किया था. तो इसका हमने निष्कर्ष निकाला कि बहुत सारे लोगों को रावण के बारे में पता ही नहीं. तो हमने एक आज से ही पॉडकास्ट स्टार्ट करी है जिसका टाइटल है रामायण से पहले. इसमें हम रामायण से पहले के इवेंट्स के बारे में बात करेंगे. तो पहले सीजन में हम लोग बात करेंगे रावण के बारे में. तो राइट फ्रॉम द ओरिजिन ऑफ रावण's एंसेस्ट्री, सो हेती प्रहेती से लेकर हम लोग शूर्पणखा का अपमान वाला जो एपिसोड है जहां पर रावण की एंट्री होती है रामायण में, उस पॉइंट तक हम ये कहानी कवर करेंगे. हर रविवार को हम लोग एपिसोड रिलीज करेंगे. उसका ट्रेलर हमने ऑलरेडी रिलीज किया है. आप लोग स्पॉटिफाई, गाना, किसी भी प्लेटफॉर्म में जाकर इस पॉडकास्ट को फॉलो करिए. और हम रावण के बारे में, रावण की वंशावली के बारे में, रावण के सारे रिश्तेदारों के बारे में, रावण ने कुबेर से लंका युद्ध करके नहीं ली थी, अगर आपको पता नहीं हो, कुबेर ने अपने पिताजी के कहने पे दान में दे दी थी रावण को. सो वी डोंट नो मोस्ट ऑफ दिस स्टफ. इट इज वेरी मच देयर इन रावण संहिता, इन अगस्त श्री राम कन्वर्सेशन दैट हैपेंस. इट इज देयर इन उत्तरकांड ऑफ रामायण. So we have basically collected all these events and we have tried to put them all in chronological order. So first episode will cover the origin of the Rakshasas, that is the Heti and Praheti, and how from Heti we reach up to Sumali, who was the grandfather of Ravan, maternal grandfather. आप अगले संडे इस एपिसोड को सुन सकते हैं. हम लोग हर संडे नया एपिसोड रिलीज करेंगे. पॉडकास्ट का नाम है रामायण से पहले, और ये वाली पॉडकास्ट मैंने खुद ही रिकॉर्ड करी है. तो आप लोग उसको सुनिए और कुछ भी फीडबैक है तो आप हम लोग के साथ शेयर करिए. और इसके साथ ही हम लोग अभी विराम देंगे और अगले अंक में फिर से मिलेंगे, महादेव इन महाभारत पार्ट 2, and we will talk about the actual events of Mahabharat and how they were influenced by Mahadev's presence. धन्यवाद. Thank you, Pranchu and Deepak, for being